Hey everyone, I'm Jessica Christie. I'm a registered social worker and therapist, and today I wanted to make a basic video about finding the right therapist for you and maybe some questions you should ask them, ask yourself before diving into the search for the right therapist. It seems like it's simple, go to Google, this person is a registered psychotherapist or a social worker, they're in my area, great. But it's usually not as easy as it sounds. A lot of people might have to go through a few therapists before they find the right fit for them. I think that that's also what happens in a therapeutic journey with someone. They might go, wow, I've been seeing this therapist for a while and I don't really feel a difference, or I don't feel like it's working for me, but maybe that's just therapy. But I also challenge you to go, maybe the therapist isn't the right fit for you. And not all therapists are alike. We're not all built the same. And that is the beauty of it. There's tons of options out there, and rest assured that you can and will find the person that is right for you with a little bit of help from these tips and tricks that I've kind of accumulated. So first and foremost, we should acknowledge that most therapists can and should offer a free 15-minute phone consult. So this is a time for you to book in with them free of charge and to see if you actually jive. And there's some questions that you can write down that I'm going to get into in the next steps. But take advantage of that. Take advantage of the free 15 minutes. And that's not going to be a time where you're going to get into the nitty-gritty details of your trauma and life and events. 15 minutes is not enough time for that, and a therapist would want to honor that and do you justice, actually delving deep into what you're looking for and your concerns and your mental health and whatever's going on for you. So just keep note of that. It will be a quick meet and greet, but a lot of us can get a sense of whether or not we jive with someone in the span of a couple minutes. Maybe you've been on some dates like that, or you've met new friends, or you're at a party and you're just like, I just want to be friends with that person. I don't know why, but I just feel it in my gut. So that's kind of what a 15-minute phone consult is for. Also, in the 15-minute phone consult, don't feel pressured to book with them. I always end my consults with saying, no pressure, you don't need to decide anything right now. Send me an email if you want to proceed, or with any other questions or inquiries that I can help you with, and we'll go from there. If someone does want to book in and they say, no, I'm sure about it, then great. But I think the therapist should also acknowledge that a lot of people feel pressure on the spot, knowing, okay, I just took up some of their time for free and now I feel obligated to book in with them. No. If it's not the right fit, that's what the consults are for. A lot of us have consults that don't end up in us seeing the client, and that's okay. That's the name of the game. It's not your fault, and it's not something for you to worry about. Tip number 2, let's keep in mind your budget. So do you have insurance? That's something to consider. And who does your insurance cover? So you might want to check with your insurance company and provider before you actually inquire with the therapist. So most insurance companies cover a registered social worker with a master's degree, so that's an MSW, a registered psychotherapist, or a psychologist. So just be sure about your budgets and your needs for that. Psychologists are usually a little bit more expensive, and some therapists are very kind of rigid in their budgeting, which is totally okay. That's their prerogative. And some offer a sliding scale. So that means that if you can't afford their price, say it's $150 an hour, maybe they can work with you if you're a student, or if you're going through some financial hardships, maybe charge $125 an hour. They'll work with you in terms of what the sliding scale means to them, but not all therapists offer that. A lot do though. So it's something to keep in mind and a question to ask if you are worried about coverage or finances in that way. Tip number 3, don't be afraid to ask around your friends, your family, your healthcare team. They know you best, and they might be able to kind of weed out a lot of the trouble that it takes going through Google and maybe all these websites that you're like, I'm overwhelmed and there's so many people that I can choose from. So trust in that. Maybe if you feel comfortable with someone, ask your friend, hey, I'm looking for a therapist. Do you have any recommendations? Have you seen anyone? That actually happens a lot to me, and I can't see my friends personally as a therapist because that would be in conflict, but I can recommend someone to them being like, oh my gosh, I have a coworker or I know this person and they specialize in exactly what you're looking for. And I think that you'd be a great fit. Just book in for a consult with them and see if you jive. And maybe you go to a healthcare team and you've been seeing the massage therapist there for years or the physiotherapist, and you get around to chatting and they go, hey, we actually have a social worker that just joined the team and she's amazing. Maybe it would be a good fit. So don't be afraid to ask. And also you can consult your doctor, see if there's any referrals that they can give you in that area, but it's all something to be considered. So referrals are great from the people that know you the best. Number 4, what kind of therapy are you looking for? There is so many options with this, and I don't want you to get overwhelmed. If I list off all of the different types of modalities that we use, you might be like, oh my gosh, I don't know what any of those words mean, and I'm overwhelmed. So there are the basics that you've probably heard of: cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, so that's CBT, DBT, mindfulness-based therapy, trauma-informed therapy, narrative-based therapy. So there are a lot, but this is something that in your consult, you can ask the therapist, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Maybe I suffer with OCD, or I have ADHD, or I have anxiety and depression. What kind of therapeutic modalities do you utilize to help with that? And can you explain a little bit about them? So that takes the work out of it for you. Or you could Google ahead of time and you could say, hey, okay, what therapeutic modalities work best for XYZ? And there's usually a lot that will come up and you can read about it and see what jives with you. It's also important to keep in mind your personality type. So CBT, you might be assigned some homework, some thought records, you might be rating your emotions on a scale from 1 to 10 throughout the day. There's different things that you might be assigned, and if you don't do your homework, it's not like the therapist is going to scold you or something bad will happen, but it's in order for you to get the most out of your therapy. So if you're not a very structured type of person, or you don't jive well with, being assigned something and know that you maybe won't hold yourself accountable to do something like that, then that's something to also keep in mind and go, maybe CBT is not for me and maybe I want to try this. Just because it's evidence-based and there's tons of research saying this is what works for this diagnosis, everyone's different, and just honor that about yourself and to say, you know what, I've tried CBT, it didn't work for me, maybe I want to go down this path, and that's totally okay. Another thing to note that is important is that most therapists have niches or specialties. So aside from the therapeutic modalities that they use, it's usually in sync with what they specialize in. So it might be eating disorders, it might be OCD, it might be trauma. So just, know yourself and know what you're looking for and your goals and your needs, and you can find a therapist that actually specializes in what you're looking for. There's also very niche specializations such as online dating. I was a former actor, so I love working with clients that are a part of the creative industry, maybe facing a lot of rejection or going through life transitions because of what their job entails. And that's something that I have lived experience with, but I'm also really passionate about and can have the credentials and license to provide therapy in that regard. Step 5, consider long-term versus short-term care. So if you're doing cognitive behavioral therapy, usually that is structured in maybe a 12-week program, once a week for 12 weeks. Some therapists can see you long-term or however often you'd like, maybe once a week for years and years, or some, with their scheduling or their availability are more short-term. So if you know that you have something that is going to take a while to uncover and go deep into, also you can ask them, are you available long-term? Is there a wait list for your practice? Could I see you weekly, bi-weekly? What works for your schedule? Because this is what I'm looking for, and you don't have to compromise on what you're looking for. Number 6, also consider the therapist's availability. So you could jive with the therapist, be like, oh, I found the right one for me, they're perfect. but they're only available during the day. And I work during the day and they don't have any weekend availability or evening availability. And then that's kind of the end of that. So just be cognizant of their timing and availability and make sure that it meshes with yours. There's also considering in-person care versus remote care or a hybrid. Some people like to do a little bit of both. I personally only provide remote therapy at this time, but if you know that you want in-person care and you've tried remote therapy and you're like, no, I just need to like sit next to my therapist and be in the same room as them, then that's something to keep in mind and to look for when you're going through your search. Okay, and last but not least, my favorite tip that you should keep in mind, first and foremost, tip number 7, trust yourself and your perception of what you think of the therapist and how they make you feel. If you do the 15-minute phone consult and you chat with them, maybe they say all the right things, but in your gut you just go, I don't know, it just didn't jive with me and it just doesn't feel right. That is okay. You know yourself best. And it's like when you go to a party and you just know within a couple of minutes if the person you're talking to is someone that you'd be friends with or not. It doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It doesn't mean that that's a bad therapist. They're just not right for you, and that's okay. Or maybe you get off the call and you go, oh my gosh, that made me feel light. It made me feel seen, heard, understood. I feel like they genuinely cared about me. And that's how it should feel. A lot of us therapists got into therapy ourselves because we have our own lived experiences that brought us into this and we want to help other people. There's something called trauma wisdom. So you can tell when someone has lived through something, even without, knowing them personally, that your therapist isn't going to go out through the details of their own life because it's not about them, it's about you. But based on what they say, how they say it, how they're conducting themselves, you can just tell if someone gets you and if you feel great in their presence. So trust yourself. This is your time. This is your energy. Don't apologize for wasting someone's time because therapists are understanding, or they should be. I am. And we know that it's challenging and life is challenging and you're already going through a lot on top of things. So interviewing to find the right therapist can be a daunting aspect, but I hope that you got something from this video that makes you feel a little bit more at ease. It kind of broke down exactly what you can ask someone, what you're looking for, and just take the guesswork out of it. So I hope that you got something from this video. If you have any more questions, please let me know. Good luck in your therapy journey. I'm wishing you all the best. Bye.